One of my favorite books, Sharon just ordered it for me. It's not so easy to get because I don't know how many people are interested in this type of thing, but here is, it contains examples of strategies, not the tactics really, but the strategies for battlefield operations historically and their outcomes. And I have always felt, when I was making a collage, that I was in the middle of a struggle similar to being on a battlefield, where I was marshaling forces and struggling to achieve something, in this case, a metaphor like a general who has an outcome that he's set on completing, as any leader would have a great outcome in mind, right? Just like an artist has a great outcome in mind. And the failures that lead to that outcome are as important as the successes that lead to that outcome. I don't think it's possible to have a good outcome without some failures along the way. So if you think about a collage, it's comprised of elements that fail to work or succeed in working. And just like in a real battle, there are elements that you did not anticipate that cause failures and cause successes. And in every great battle that you can read about, there was one or another occurrences or actual individuals who changed the course of the battle. And I found collage to be like that every time, is that unbeknownst to me, unprepared for, an individual component came into my view or came out of a magazine that solved the riddle that in some cases caused the collage to be laying on the table for years. I'm not exaggerating when I say that some collages remained unfinished for 2 or 3 years because I couldn't find how to finish it with a piece, because this is a digression here, but I have certain rules, and one of them is that I always work from found sources. I don't photograph and enlarge, I don't photocopy, I don't use Photoshop. Everything is literally found. So I'm limited to what I can find, what I have the time to find, and the size in particular of what can be found. So the complications of trying to explain this to people, as you, the viewer, now may be realizing, are great. It's like, what does all this mean? And it's not even that particularly interesting. All of a sudden it occurred to me that all along in my subconscious, if you look at my work, the work has a mythological nature. It works on a pre-Freudian level. This moment of realization, I thought, as a child, I used to read the Iliad and the Odyssey, and the most interesting part of it to me was the Iliad. And all the great warriors, and they had names, they had skills, they had histories, they were powerful leaders of their own countries, they came in ships with men they had chosen, and they fought over years along, ironically, a beach. They never went inland very far. They were on their boats or they were on their beach. And there were skirmishes and battles up and down the beach. And I can't help but believe that that plays into my thinking. When I travel along these tables, I'm seeing elements that have meaning to me, almost the same way the warriors in the Iliad had meaning to each other and to the generals who led them. They come to each skirmish with their skills and they succeed or they fail in the same way that all artistic achievements have failures and successes leading up to them. Even the most successful piece of art has failures woven into its achievement at some point or another. So this is something that brings me to believing that this battleground, collage as a battleground concept, is what my metaphor is for my work. There's a place on the table that I choose to bring elements together into a collage, just like the beach at Troy. The elements are known to me. In some cases, I have found images, found materials that I have had for over 30 years. Most are more recent than that, 1, 2, 3 years old. I know them, I know their size, I know their color, and I know the angle that the light is falling on them in the image, which is very important. And as I put the collage together, I expect, as any great general, that an outcome will be that of a success. That the pieces will fall together as I dream many times the night before that they will. But the fact is, often a piece that I am so certain will fit does not fit. But that's not the end of that piece, any more than it is the end of a casualty on the beach at Troy. They just go back to laying down to be called upon to be used again, and often are. And again, some pieces I never expected to work or to fit just catch my eye, and suddenly they are the piece, the single brilliant idea that unconsciously rises up and fits into the collage and makes it the collage that it is. So this is truly operating on an unconscious level. I'm not saying this goes here and this goes there. I'm not saying this collage means this and this collage means that. I'm not saying that when I studied Freud in college, I learned these things and I'm trying to convey those things. I'm not saying that in the society today, this type of material and this imagery would be cool or meaningful to many people. I'm like a somnambulist out in the woods at night, having no knowledge of how I got there. All I know is I was in bed a short while ago, and my fingers are moving in front of me, as I say, like blind hummingbirds, just fluttering around and working on 5, 6, 7 collages at a time, gathering pieces from the resources, just like the troops were gathered from the ships for the skirmishes on the beach. I don't know if an artist should say such things as I'm about to say. It's a bifurcal concept in my brain. I didn't think about putting the animals in there. I really didn't. But now, on a conscious level, I'm saying, people are going to think this is weird, those animals are in there. But then the other guy is saying, but you didn't contrive putting them in there, they came in. You opened the door and they came in, right? It's partly resource driven. I wanted to have fur for this guy to wear, and this was the fur I had available. So it's also difficult. The part at the bottom in red, I'll go a little technical here. I don't like to demystify things, but for the purposes, I thought I couldn't use that red element, but it has an ever so indistinct lower half of a couple dancing. They're in black, their legs and shoes, against a red background. Well, on one hand, it was too indistinct to remain in the collage. It just was. Graphically, it was wimpy. On the other hand, I wanted to outline it, and I think I failed at properly outlining it, because I wanted the outline to stand beneath the fur man. But the outline does not stand in the sense that we would draw from life. It simply is scared to overlap the photograph of the couple dancing, and therefore took on a wimpy, bulbous sort of outline. And as I said earlier, this will probably be something that I excuse in days and months to come. I'll probably like it, but right now, I had no choice. This is why I always say, in each is evidence of a struggle, because the collages are struggles. That's why I don't worry about taping and retaping, pinning and repinning. If someone owns one of my collages and they go and they look at it and they inspect it, as I always do with art, it's like, what was the process here? They will see a lot of process and reprocess, which to me is evidence of a struggle.